South Park is very well known for its adult humor and hyperbolic situations for its beloved characters. For over 20 years, airing hundreds of episodes on Comedy Central, the show has gained a reputation for its topical satire and political commentary. Considering some of the subjects South Park has covered, it comes as no surprise to see the show encounter varying levels of controversy.
I run this network, not you guys. No Mohammed.
As a result, certain episodes were banned from subsequent TV airings and streaming services, along with heavy censorship impeding the show and affecting certain episodes. With the typical South Park attitude, creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone fully embrace any attention that the show gains. The creators openly show a full understanding of the potential consequences from freedom of speech.
They had no problem with showing Mohammed until they felt that they were threatened with violence.
They understand and continue their work as they intend, even with repercussions. Throughout this video, we shall be looking at 5 of the most controversial South Park episodes from the TV series. There are a handful of episodes to choose from. Some of these entries will feature 2-part episodes, but I will include them as one singular entry. Each episode featured has experienced some form of backlash, including heavy censorship and even removal from TV airings and streaming. There will also be a segment of honorable mentions to name a few worthy of some form of recognition. And on that note, let us begin with the countdown. The final episode of the 9th season covered the topic of alcoholism. Specifically, it looked into the struggles involved with the moderation of drinking habits. While Stan and the boys attend a karate class, Randy Marsh is out getting drunk. He picks up the boys to drive them home and receives a DUI for driving under the influence.
What seems to be the officer problem?
As part of his punishment, he must regularly attend AA meetings in order to learn how to control his drinking. Ironically, these meetings influence Randy to drink more irresponsibly. At first, Randy is completely rational with his grasp on drinking less and self-control. However, once he is told alcoholism is a disease by those in the AA group, this is where he loses control and drinks more. As part of the 12-step program, this method of self-rehabilitation involves giving yourself over to a higher power, that being religion. Instead of accepting responsibility for your own actions, terming alcoholism as a disease removes the choice and self-preservation behind drinking alcohol. Randy takes this literally and purposefully becomes dependent on alcohol, while also choosing to shave his own head and confine himself to a wheelchair for added sympathy. Stan attempts to explain to his father why his actions are stupid and that he has the free will to stop drinking. Moments like this work really well throughout the series, where the child has a firm grasp on reality dealing with an immature adult. After this explanation, Randy ignores his son's advice. I love the scene that follows where Stan stands up to the AA group stating that their actions were like that of a cult. Plus, the nod to one of the previous episodes where he says,
"Yeah, and I also know a thing or two about cults. I was the leader of one for a while."
Was a fantastic inclusion, and yes, we are covering that episode shortly. While Randy is sitting around feeling sorry for himself, he sees a news announcement stating a miracle has happened. It's revealed a statue of the Virgin Mary has spontaneously started bleeding out of its anus. This concept alone was in reference to reports of weeping statues thought to be symbolic by various religious groups. Having the statue bleed from its anus makes it all the more crass, which is where the controversy begins. For obvious reasons, this segment was seen as disrespectful to the Catholic Church. Adding insult to injury, the episode premiered on Comedy Central a day before the Feast of Immaculate Conception. This is a traditional holy day of observation from within the Catholic Church. The episode also caught the attention of Joseph A. Califano Jr., a practicing Catholic member of Viacom's board of directors. He described the episode as appalling and a disgusting portrayal of the Virgin Mary. Thought to cure his alcoholism, Randy allows the statue to shit blood all over him. He then seems to accept that he doesn't need to drink alcohol anymore. This was the cure he needed, or at least what he convinced himself he needed. One period joke later, it's revealed that the statue wasn't bleeding from the anus and therefore wasn't special after all. Subsequently, Randy breaks down and falls back on his old habits. The episode concludes with a life lesson for Randy Marsh, where Stan reiterates his comments from before, inspired by his karate teacher.
Discipline come from within.
Authority over one's actions allows for the moderation of doing something you enjoy. The episode has supposedly not been featured in any reruns of the show on Comedy Central. Although it was requested that the episode be banned in its entirety, a limited number of streaming websites still feature this episode, along with it featuring in its full uncensored glory on the DVD and Blu-ray release. Also from Season 9 is the infamous Scientology episode. This is a show Trey and Matt had wanted to do for a very long time. Admittedly, they held off from writing the episode since Isaac Hayes, the voice of Chef, was a Scientologist. They avoided the subject as they did not want to create an unnecessary feud with Hayes against his personal beliefs. On the other hand, the creators felt hypocritical for not going after the Church of Scientology when supposedly nothing was safe from being ridiculed on the show. The aftermath of the episode gained controversial attention. With a prominent focus on Stan Marsh, this episode insinuates a peek behind the curtain of Scientology. Remarked as a cult throughout, Stan is swept into the Church of Scientology after being convinced he is depressed, and therefore must buy into this faith with his own money. The representation of this faith within the show details the genuine beliefs of Scientologists. More importantly, it also depicts a supposed hidden agenda based on telling stories and in turn profiting from within. With an entire sequence dedicated to animating the explanation of Scientology, this is purposefully used to the advantage of ridiculing the faith. The explanation segment is one of my favorite moments with some great character models, especially for Xenu. I also love the Marklar reference from the Season 3 episode Starvin' Marvin in Space, which was one of the first episodes of South Park I ever watched. For the viewers who may be unfamiliar with Scientology, there is a bold message across the bottom of the screen reading, "This is what Scientologists actually believe." This may seem ambiguous. However, this method of storytelling is utilized phenomenally. The writers do not need to embellish the material they are satirizing. If anything, this segment is purposefully watered down beyond the explanations you can find on this topic. This is genuinely a part of Scientology, which was brought forward by founder L. Ron Hubbard, a science fiction writer. Part of the story for this episode involves tricking Stan, an impressionable child, into thinking he is the reincarnation of L. Ron Hubbard. Considered to be the new prophet of Scientology, it is then revealed to Stan that Scientology and the stories told within the church are nothing short of a global scam. He is then told that he'll be contributing more to this, posing as Hubbard to tell more stories and make more money. After ridiculing Scientology and attempting to expose the faith, in response to the episode, the church went as far as personally investigating Trey and Matt. This involved delving into their private phone calls, bank records, personal letters. Nothing was off limits in hopes of exposing them for something untoward. Ironically, nothing was found out about either man. Beyond the representation of Scientology, another issue found with the episode was the portrayal of certain celebrities. These celebrities are well known for being Scientologists in real life. Specifically, Tom Cruise was a main focus, hiding in Stan's closet where Stan unintentionally insults his acting career, hence the episode title, Trapped in the Closet. After the episode aired, Cruise was against the parody, where he was mocked for supposed poor acting skills and accusations of homosexuality. Several sources online argued Cruise was instantly on the defense about the episode. Supposedly, he approached Viacom about the episode, a media company who owns both Comedy Central and Paramount Pictures. Having just wrapped production on Mission Impossible 3, there were rumors stating he would refuse to promote the movie if the episode was shown again. This rumor was discredited, where a spokesperson for Cruise denied the allegations.
Tom Cruise won't come out of the closet.
After going ahead with the episode, Isaac Hayes did cut ties with the show's creators and departed from the series. The abrupt nature of the resignation only added to the backlash for this episode. However, this is where things become more complicated because Hayes did not quit the show at all. In January 2006, he suffered a stroke which heavily affected his personal life. He was unable to speak and had to learn certain skills from scratch, such as playing the piano. Throughout his recovery, the people around him were supposedly devout Scientologists. During this time, a letter was left for the South Park officers in Isaac Hayes' name, quitting the show on March 13, 2006. Many years later, these details came forward during a discussion for The Hollywood Reporter. Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and Hayes' son, Isaac Hayes III, detailed what happened. It was stated that an anonymous Scientologist quit South Park on his father's behalf. Considering the subjects covered on the show, it was considered to be negligible for Hayes to leave over the Scientologist episode. It is still unknown to this day who wrote the letter on his behalf. Chef as a character had no proper ending, so he was written out of the series in the next season. The return of Chef was a very strange episode, using random dialogue snippets from the previous seasons to make him say disturbing phrases aloud. In turn, the story of this episode where Chef joins a cult was a metaphor for Isaac Hayes being part of Scientology, which in turn scrambled his brain, to quote the series. Trapped in the Closet originally aired in November 2005, and ironically, it became all the more controversial from people attempting to remove the episode from reruns. According to a DVD commentary found on The Hits Volume 1, in March 2006, the episode was meant to air once again on Comedy Central. However, a mere 6 hours before the episode was meant to go out, it was pulled by Viacom. Nothing was apparently disclosed publicly concerning the sudden removal of this episode from the TV schedule. Eventually, people did work out why. The episode was replaced by Chef's Chocolate Salty Balls, an old Season 2 episode in honor of Isaac Hayes' contribution to the show. Removing all association for those that were actually involved with the episode, the end credits simply referred to John Smith and Jane Smith. This was purposefully done so as to not endanger the lives of anybody who worked on the show. Despite attempts at having this episode removed, it is thankfully available on most streaming websites. Likewise, it is also featured on the Blu-ray and DVD releases. The infamous David Blaine episode made a mockery of cultism under the fictional faith of Blaintology. Although this episode gained a heavy influence for its commentary on Blaine's career with an extremely subtle dig at Scientology, the episode is more well known for its inclusion of the title characters, the Super Best Friends. Religion has often been a target of ridicule and an open topic for discussion on the show. The satirizing of religious figures has been done across many episodes. Most of these feature Jesus Christ himself, going as far back as the pre-season shorts before the series was established. Used as a repeat side character, he was the star of his own in-universe show known as Jesus and Pals in the early seasons. This episode expanded the representation of Jesus with the inclusion of the Super Best Friends. This episode is for sure one of my favorites with its usage of Jesus as a character. With a clear inspiration from the Justice League, we have the lead religious figures and prophets joining together to form a group of heroes. Using these characters together, they were void of disagreement and competition. They would fight crime together collectively in an exaggerated manner. As for the controversy surrounding this episode, this surprisingly unfolded many years after the episode aired. Originally, the episode aired on the 4th of July 2001 pre-9/11 and was met with very little disagreement from audiences. Featuring varying religious figures, it provided an on-screen depiction of Mohammed, the prophet of the Muslim faith. Depicting a visual of Muhammad is extremely frowned upon within the Nation of Islam. Creating a fictitious visual of the prophet could encourage idolatry. In order to avoid the worship of a physical image, having no visual representation of Muhammad is preferred. In turn, this would also remove any possibility of ridicule which may apply in this instance. Further reinforcing the controversy surrounding the visual depiction of Mohammed, the Jyllands-Posten Mohammed cartoon crisis is very notable to the point of even inspiring later episodes of South Park. In September 2005, the Danish newspaper published a series of 12 cartoons depicting a visual of Mohammed. By citing the phrase, "This is the face of Mohammed," it was thought to be trying to exercise the freedom to discuss Islam without the fear of terror. The issue went on for several months, igniting protests and violent extremism in prominent Muslim countries. Sadly, the end result came the deaths of approximately 250 people. Journalists around the world opted to keep this fight going for the right to freedom of speech to no avail. Throughout the Super Best Friends episode, Mohammed is a prominent character. He is featured in the majority of scenes during the second and third act. Plus, he has a lot of spoken dialogue, again, something that is heavily frowned upon. With the episode's strong focus on David Blaine, the Super Best Friends assemble as a team to fight back against Blaine and his use of dark magic. Surprisingly, the issue with Mohammed was only taken several years after this episode originally aired. Sadly, due to safety concerns, the Super Best Friends episode has been removed from all future broadcasts. Along with several other Mohammed-related episodes, this one is no longer available for streaming on any major platform, which also includes the South Park Studios website. The only way to catch this episode will likely be on physical media discs. Removing this episode was done to refrain from the Mohammed controversy spiraling out of control. Then again, this was certainly not the last we would hear on this subject. Trey Parker and Matt Stone have publicly shared their personal hatred for the animated series Family Guy. Although they have not directly insulted creator Seth MacFarlane, both Parker and Stone have gone out of their way to discredit him as a comedy influence. Their opinions stem from how Family Guy delivers its comedy style, in particular the cutaway gag. This is a trope heavily used throughout the series, which essentially boils down to randomized humor and episode filler. Trey and Matt term this writing style as lazy for disassociating itself from the plot. It results in random gag humor which has absolutely nothing to do with a given story. Cartoon Wars was originally going to be just one standalone episode featuring Mohammed. Since Comedy Central later refused to entertain this idea, the episode and its intentions changed. It began with the sole intention to stand up to the network censors and show an image of Mohammed in favor of free speech. As mentioned before, the notable Danish controversy was a heavy inspiration. It even inspired the title Cartoon Wars. To quote Trey in the audio commentary, these episodes had since become more notorious for ripping on Family Guy. The first episode was set out to include a visual of Mohammed, but it was made clear by the network that any attempt to show the prophet would be censored. I do love the satirical approach taken in these episodes by trying to shift the blame onto Family Guy for wanting to show Mohammed. This is where the plot evolves by purposefully ripping into Family Guy for trying to push boundaries. Throughout these episodes, a crude-looking Family Guy adaptation parodies the iconic living room setting from the original show. The dialogue delivery in particular makes a mockery of the cutaway gags. This first episode shows sheer panic sweeping across the town of South Park. As part of the plot, a news report declares that the show Family Guy will be featuring Mohammed on broadcast television. This sets off a chain reaction of fear amongst the town's residents who do not want to be associated with anything controversial. Their key instinct is survival under the impression that extremists will retaliate with violence. This entire plot is based on a real argument between the show's creators and the network executives. Mohammed was already now a taboo subject considered to be off limits, which only encouraged the show's creators to want to cover the subject to an even greater extent. Investing this attitude into the show, the first episode asks, "What's the big deal?" when approaching the visual representation of Mohammed. This was explored where the four main boys watch the Family Guy episode and the Mohammed segment is shown to be another typical cutaway gag. It lasted for only a few seconds. Kyle says, "That's it? That's all they did?" Countering this, Cartman ironically speaks out as the voice of reason. He declares the Family Guy episode as offensive, saying that it was making fun of the Muslim people. His argument replicated what we have previously referenced. It did not matter what Mohammed was doing, regardless, showing a physical depiction was not to be done. Yet another news announcement states that Family Guy will once again be showing Mohammed. In order to avoid this, the town is busy burying their heads in the sand, quite literally. Kyle then comes around to Cartman's way of thinking. I personally love the nightmare segment that inspires Kyle to join the fight against Family Guy. This was a great example of violence inspiring change which is motivated by fear. This is a theme we will be covering in more detail momentarily. Together, the boys embark on their journey to the Fox television studios. Their goal was to convince the Fox executives to pull the Mohammed episode. However, it is then revealed that Cartman has an ulterior motive. Like watching dominoes fall, pulling one episode would then set off a chain reaction. Cartman hates Family Guy, and where one episode would be pulled from airing, eventually more would follow. His desired end result would be the cancellation of Family Guy altogether. Cartman prevails in a fight against Kyle, who was standing up for Family Guy and in turn the right for free speech. The episode ends on a cliffhanger where Cartman rides off into the sunset. Meanwhile, the town is deliberately staying ignorant to the events going on around them. Keeping the Mohammed argument going with the TV network, Cartoon Wars was formed into a two-parter story. Trey and Matt were set on trying their luck at featuring Mohammed once again the following week. Between the episodes airing, the creators from other animated sitcoms, The Simpsons and King of the Hill applauded the satirical portrayal of Family Guy. The Simpsons crew delivered flowers to the South Park office, while the King of the Hill staff phoned at the office declaring that they were doing God's work in a very Hank Hill-esque approach. The second episode begins by misleading the viewer. Similarly to the second season premiere, we are teased with a Terrence and Phillip special. Thankfully, this very quickly links back to the main plot. Terrence and Phillip expressed their outrage for the network president censoring the image of Mohammed. Although brief, this segment does set up the remaining argument about violence motivating change in the context of censorship. The episode continues with Cartman infiltrating the Fox headquarters. We come across a stylistically adapted Bart Simpson sharing the same hatred for Family Guy. Cartman manipulates his way into the production offices where he discovers a shocking truth. The Family Guy writers are manatees in a flotation tank. Although cruel, this is for sure one of my favorite South Park moments. In a 2009 interview with Howard Stern, Seth MacFarlane respectfully stated that he would prefer if his staff were not referenced in such a way.
Then I read this article where they were just really like spitting venom at us and at our staff, and I was like, well, that's kind of lame. It's like, go after me all you want, but don't go picking on writers you don't even know who are making much less money than you.
Once again, this scene further pertains to make a mockery of the cutaway gag writing. Kyle intervenes to try and stop Cartman from pulling the Family Guy episode. Where Cartman believes he has triumphed, as always, Kyle is there to stop him. Their fight is almost adorable, immaturely battling their way through the production offices for the King of the Hill series. I really do appreciate the background details during this segment. Bart Simpson takes out Cartman, allowing Kyle to finally speak with the network president of Fox. The dialogue throughout this scene is concise, arguing against the manipulation of free speech. Terror is that manipulation. Cartman storms the office holding a gun, using terror to motivate his personal agenda. Kyle's quote, "You can't do what he wants just because he's threatening you with violence," perfectly summed up the climax for Cartoon Wars. This is then continued by the phrase, "It's either all okay or none of it is," which is a phrase Trey and Matt often refer back to. Censoring Mohammed in this instance would create a distinction between what is viewed as acceptable and what isn't. In context to the episode, freedom of speech prevails as the episode airs fully uncensored. Although the scene is featured, the part supposedly showing Mohammed is censored for the actual South Park episode. The scene is replaced by a caption reading, "Comedy Central has refused to broadcast an image of Mohammed on their network," which was part of the inspiration behind these episodes to begin with. I also find a huge irony in the following scene. As part of the extremists' supposed retaliation, they air a cartoon which depicts Jesus Christ literally defecating on George Bush's head. This scene was deliberately done out of immature spite to Comedy Central, but in context is hysterically pleasing. Suffering a similar fate to Super Best Friends, these episodes have since been removed from general broadcasting. Likewise, most prominent streaming services do not carry these episodes. However, they are featured on the DVD release, but just like the TV airing, they do not feature an uncensored visual of Mohammed. Even though the following episodes may not be as controversial, I thought I would give them an honorable mention. Perhaps in a future video we will explore the following episodes in more extensive detail. It Hits the Fan is a season 5 episode which aired back in 2001. Trey and Matt challenged the TV censors by repeatedly using the word shit 162 times. This was done in reference to a primetime TV drama, Chicago Hope, which manipulated their viewership by using the word only once. South Park, on the other hand, used it as much as possible, thus normalizing its usage on network TV without it being bleeped. All About Mormons is a season 7 episode which received a very minor backlash from the Mormon community. They were upset with their faith being misrepresented. In an anticlimax of sorts, the Mormon people chose to ignore the existence of this episode. They didn't even ask for an apology, they just simply moved on. Hell on Earth 2006 is one of my favorite season 10 episodes. Thought of as too soon and in poor taste, this episode featured wildlife conservationist Steve Irwin a mere 2 months after his death. The depiction of him was shown with a stingray poking out of his chest. Proper Condom Use is a season 5 episode where Mr. Garrison teaches sex education to kindergartners. This featured a mildly disturbing scene thought of as too much where Garrison shows how to apply a condom with your mouth. The episode aired as normal in the United States, but the episode was removed from its initial airing in the United Kingdom and pushed back to a later slot in countries such as Australia. With apologies to Jesse Jackson, is the season 11 episode made infamous for the usage of the N-word. Oddly, this episode was praised for its portrayal of how hate speech can personally diminish an individual. On the other hand, the Parents Television Council found this praise to be hypocritical, naming this episode the worst cable content of the week. There are plenty more controversial South Park moments, so let me know in the comments if you feel we should cover these instances in another video. Celebrating 200 episodes, a 2-part special premiered in 2010 with the intent of paying homage to the town's most memorable moments. This included many repeat celebrity portrayals from across the series, the Ginger Kids, Dr. Mephisto, Mitch Connor, Pip, who Eric Cartman's father really was, and of course, Mohammed. Arguably, these episodes resulted in the biggest controversy in South Park's history. Originally thought of as a clip show of sorts, these episodes revisited some of the most iconic stories by reusing the same themes and adapting them into their own coherent plots. These episodes had a very relevant message at their core, a message which was censored completely. As a result, many fans may not even fully understand what these episodes were trying to accomplish without diving deeper into the story. Episode 200 aired on the 14th of April 2010 and was never shown again. For a brief time period, an uncensored copy of the episode was available online, but has since long been removed. Although perhaps not as controversial, it was setting up the events for the next episode. 200 begins with the schoolchildren touring a chocolate factory, where Stan points out that actor Tom Cruise is packing fudge on the assembly line. In other words, as the joke goes, he is a fudge packer. Taking this comment as a slanderous remark, he decides to band together with an army of celebrities and sue the entire town of South Park. Setting up the controversial subject matter, the episode purposefully portrays Cruise's ego to be warranted of protection from being made fun of. Making a bold request to Randy Marsh, he declares that he will drop the class action lawsuit against the mountain town, providing a meeting can be arranged with Mohammed. Since showing Mohammed to any capacity is evidently frowned upon, it becomes an ongoing issue where the celebrities want to use Mohammed to ensure that their integrity remains. Rob Reiner is brought back, having invented a secret goo machine that will extract this metaphorical goo from Mohammed and inject it into the celebrities. This was supposed to be a metaphor for ensuring that the celebrities would never be made fun of again. Leaving the episode on a cliffhanger, the ginger kids who were prominently featured in the memorable Season 9 episode threaten to bomb the town if they don't get Mohammed. And so in retaliation, the celebrities unleashed their ultimate weapon, Mecha Barbra Streisand. The week between 200 airing and before 201 aired placed the follow-up episode in a liminal place of uncertainty. Was the episode going to air at all? A radical website known as revolutionmuslim.com shared a post about their discontent for the South Park episode. They went as far as issuing a warning and that those associated with Comedy Central would risk violent retribution. Once again, this revolved around the attempt to depict the Prophet in a physical form. Although censored, the insinuation that Mohammed was the character in the bear costume was enough to draw unwanted attention. As we mentioned before, revealing any physical depiction of Mohammed is explicitly frowned upon. This specific argument is even brought up in conversation between Stan, Kyle, and Jesus. Unable to show Mohammed, this became increasingly more challenging to complete the story. 201 was delivered to Comedy Central in the uncensored form Trey and Matt intended for it to be seen in. Due to threats against the creators and in turn Comedy Central, the episode was butchered by censorship. Usually this would not necessarily be a big deal, but the censorship completely trampled on the satirical message behind these episodes. Continuing from the previous cliffhanger, the episode plays out, but with the extremely heavy censorship impeding the show. Even for South Park, this seemed over the top. Any mention of Mohammed's name was now bleeped, which was very distracting from the main plot at hand.
Don't do it, Randy! If would have seen, we could get bombed!
As the story continued to unfold, it was then revealed that Mohammed was in fact not in the bear costume. He was instead switched with Santa Claus. Disrupting the violent negotiations, Mecha Barbra Streisand continues her rampage. The animation for these segments was absolutely fantastic, especially in comparison to the Season 1 Streisand episode. Speaking of Season 1, in reference to the episode An Elephant Makes Love to a Pig, Kyle proposes the idea of Dr. Mephisto cloning Mohammed so both the celebrities and the gingers will have their own copies of him. Before this can go any further, the gingers kidnap Mohammed, holding the boys captive as they try to strike a deal with the celebrities. After an unexpected defeat for Barbara at the hands of the super best friends, they then take on the gingers and the celebrities. Meanwhile, Cartman is held by Scott Tenorman, revealing who his father really was, a plot point taken from the Season 1 cliffhanger finale. This is interrupted by the ongoing fight, where Tom Cruise is ridiculed after using the goo machine. This proved that the goo machine was in fact not real. In the original broadcast cut of the episode, the end scene with Kyle's speech is completely butchered. In my honest opinion, the studio interference ruins the episode. Originally, like many viewers, it did confuse me when I first saw it. The episodes were all about censorship and what was considered to be morally correct to show on television. When Kyle started speaking at the end, it was bleeped entirely. Likewise for the additional dialogues from both Jesus and Santa. This was an extremely odd choice and, as I mentioned before, seemed way over the top. Despite the controversy surrounding Mohammed, the end speech did not say anything about the Prophet. It was instead a statement about how terrorizing people in order to manipulate a situation actually worked. Santa is quoted saying, "The only true power is violence." In context, this was an incredibly ironic outcome. Although these episodes are no longer available to stream legally on any reputable website, there are still ways to watch them. The Region 1 DVD release for South Park Season 14 is the easiest way. Containing both 200 and 201, 200 is fully uncensored, but sadly 201 appears in its butchered state from the original TV airing. As I've previously mentioned on the channel, any DVD copies released outside of the United States do not even make reference to these episodes. For example, the UK Region 2 release erased these episodes completely. For 201 specifically, it may surprise many of you to know that an uncensored copy does exist. On January 31st, 2014, a 4chan user illegally downloaded 201 in its original format without the studio interference from the South Park Studios website. The episode was hidden amongst the coding of the website and not available for public streaming. Without the approval of Comedy Central, this episode was leaked online. It certainly wasn't the easiest to find, but I did manage to locate a copy of this for my own collection. Watching both episodes back to back without the unnecessary censorship is definitely an experience I would recommend. On that note, thank you very much for watching my video essay. I hope you found this subject to be of interest. For the select few, I would like to emphasize that the thoughts and opinions detailed from external sources do not necessarily reflect upon myself. This video is an exploration of censorship with detailed explanations showing how this affected specific episodes of the TV show South Park. If you did enjoy, please leave a like down below. I would much appreciate the support on bigger video projects such as this. Let me know in the comments how you feel about these controversial moments for the show. And for more content, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, DVD Review Studios, for more upcoming videos.
Are you threatening me?